Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. So in today's video I'm going to show you how to integrate Supabase which into Firebase. So Supabase is more like Firebase, but now it's just a different kind of Firebase. Let me just say it like that. So Supabase basically provides you with a cloud database. So it helps you to set up applications and get your applications running very quickly. So basically you can have a database storage in the cloud. You can provide with buckets. You can store different images, different files and other stuff like that. Also provided things like authentication, and just makes development really simple. So in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to build a simple CRUD API using Supabase. Basically you're going to be able to store the stuff in the Supabase database, retrieve stuff, update stuff, delete stuff, and all that CRUD functionality with Supabase. We're going to do this all with Firebase. So we're going to integrate Supabase, which is a database we're going to be using, into Firebase. So Supabase is a cloud database. We're going to integrate into our FastAPI basically our FastAPI application. So let's get started with it. So I'm going to go ahead and create a file right here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a file, and I'm going to call this file main.py. So main.py. So let me just, before I even start this, let me just go ahead and show you what you're going to be building. So let me go back in here. So I can just, it's going to be simple to do, just for you to get the basic idea of CRUD application. If you guys want me to build something more complicated that includes authentication and storing different files, let me know in the comment section below. I'll do my best to create that video. Okay, so let me just click on execute, and it's going to go ahead and retrieve all the to-dos inside of our Supabase app, basically our Supabase database, and you can still have it right here, all the to-dos. You can delete the to-do if you want. So let me just copy this to-dos UUID, or basically the ID. I'm just going to go ahead and copy it, and I can just go ahead and minimize it. I can go into to do, get to do, and here you can get a specific to do. So I'm going to pass in the UID here and then press enter, and that's going to return to me this specific to do from Supabase database. So you can see pass in the ID and we get that specific to do. We can also delete it to do, so I can pass in, and let's try to delete it to do. So you can also go here and just say try it out, and then simply paste it in here, paste this right here, and click on enter, and that's going to go ahead and delete that to do. So you get back a 204, which shows the content has been deleted. So if I go back in here and press execute, now you should get back only one to do because the other one has been deleted. So that's basically how you can work it. You can also create a new to do if you want to. You can say try it out, and you can fill in the details. So I'm going to say tutorial tests, and I'm going to say tutorial test this let me get the spelling right, test description. So right then I'm going to go ahead and click on execute, and that's going to go ahead and insert that to do into our Supabase database. So if I go back in here and click on execute, now you should be able to see that to do right here. So we can see the to do right here, it has been created, which is this to do right here, and it has been ordered based on the date, right? So that's basically it, how you can create a simple to do. And now one of the things you're missing in the CRUD stack is the update functionality, and I'm not gonna go ahead and show you this update the update functionality. I'm going to leave that to you as a challenge for you guys to go ahead and try to do that on your own, so you can learn Supabase and how you can work with it in Firebase. If you guys have any challenge, you can let me know. I'll create more videos on it. Okay, so let's get started with this. So I'm going to go ahead and create a simple file here. I'm going to call this file main.py. So instead of main.py file, first of all, let's go ahead and install a couple of libraries before we even get started. So I'm going to go back in here, and I'm going to go ahead and create a Python virtual environment. So I'm going to simply say python 3-m vnv. I'm going to call my virtual environment vnv, and that's going to go ahead and create for me a Python virtual environment. So if I go once this is done, it can take a bit of time. So let's give it a bit of time, and once this is done, we can go ahead and actually install the libraries that we need. So we need a couple of libraries. We need FastAPI, so I can just go ahead and start getting that. So if I go to FastAPI here, so I go to my computer is a bit slow. Let me make sure that it's in performance mode. So let me just shift that into performance. I'm going to say fast API docs, just like that, and let me run that. So now the computer is a bit fast because it's in performance mode. Okay, so once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and go to documentation. So again, you can just go ahead and search for fastapi.tiangalo.com, and from there you can go ahead and get the FastAPI official documentation. So we need to install a couple of things, and the instructions are right here. So we need to install FastAPI just like this. So pip install FastAPI. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to go back in here, and once our virtual environment is created, we can see a folder called vnv, which is the name that we give our virtual environment in here. Okay, you can give it any name if you want. Okay, so once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and activate my virtual environment. Okay, so I'm going to simply say source and then vnv source vnv /bid/activate, and that's going to go ahead and activate my virtual environment right here. And you can see it's activated. If you can see the name of the virtual environment, in front of the line within the parentheses. Okay, so once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and now install that fast API. So I'm going to copy and paste that command that I copied, and it's going to go ahead and pip install fast API on that virtual environment. Okay, so let's go back in here. We also need to install UVCon, which is just the stuff that we need to use to run our fast API application. So I'm going to copy that and wait for this to install. Once it's installed, I'm going to install okay, clear that, and I'm going to install UVCon and press enter. Okay, so pip install quotes UVCon standards, square bracket standards, and then close the quotes. Okay, so that's going to go ahead and install that for us. I'm also going to be using Supabase Python library, so you can go ahead and find it right here. Okay, I'm going to leave all this in the description of the video so you guys can have access to all this. Good. So now you can see we have successfully installed UVCon. So now let me just go ahead and let's begin to install. We need to install Firebase. Sorry, not Firebase. Supabase as well. So this is a command to install Supabase. So pip install and then Supabase. So I just want to copy that command and go back in here and then simply clear the terminal and paste that in here. And that's going to go ahead and install Supabase, okay, which is a library that we need to interact with the Supabase database that you're going to create online. Okay, so once we have that done, I'm also going to install one more library to call Python decouple for us to read our virtual environment variable. So I'm going to say pip pip3 install Python hyphen decouple, just like that, and then install that. So once Python decouple is installed, we are good to go. So once I have this done, what I need to go ahead and do is now we need to go ahead and get our API keys and then use to create a simple Supabase project, get the API keys and the URL, and then simply connect to it. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and create a file in here. I'm going to call this file .env. Okay, so that's basically it. So now once we have this, actually let's write a simple fast API application before we add Supabase to it. So I'm going to say from fast API. So my bad. So I'm going to write this code instead of my main.py file. So we'll say from fast API. I'm going to go ahead and import fast API. Okay, so it doesn't pick up the library. So let me just go ahead and try to change my interpreter. So let me just change my interpreter right here. So my interpreter I want to use is not this one right here. It doesn't show up for some reason. Okay, so let me just see. Yeah, if I'm using the right interpreter, that should work. Okay, now let us pick up that interpreter. So now let's go back in here and let's simply say from fast API. I'm going to from fast API. I'm going to import fast API. I'm also going to import something called okay. Let's just import fast API for now. And once I have that import, I'm going to go ahead and simply create a fast API app, which is going to be called fast API, and just instantiate that. So once I have, I'm going to go ahead and create a function. I'm going to say get, or let's call it test. And you're going to simply just the URL is going to be /, and I'm going to go down here and then fill in the content. So I'm going to simply say return. You're going to return in Python dictionary, say message, and a message is going to be a simple hello world, just like that. So once we have that done, we are good to go. Okay, so it doesn't seem to pick this up. I don't know why. Okay, so let me just leave it to be empty for now. Okay, and let's go ahead and try this out and let's see if it's gonna work. So I'm going to go into my terminal and then clear that, and I'm going to go into project directory and simply run. I need to say UVCon, so UVCon main and then app -- reload to run that server. So we got an error. It says okay, because I'm running the older ones which I used to show the demo, so I'm gonna close that up. And then clear this and then run this again. Because I was using that port, that's why it didn't open up. So once you have it open up, I'm going to go back into my browser and then simply type in this URL. So localhost at port 8000, which is basically what you can get here. So you can just simply copy this from right here, or you can simply click on it, Control C, Control C, and then click on this link as it says right here, or you can simply copy this and paste it instead of your browser of your choice, and you can go to /docs. So if you open that link, it should look like this, right? So now what you want to do is just say /docs, and it should bring you to the official documentation, which is this Open API templating format. Okay, so once we have this done, now let's go ahead and create a Firebase API. I actually have an issue right here. It's not showing this route right here, and the reason why we need to go ahead and say at, and then say app, and then dot route. App dot this will be app dot get, and then simply say / basically like that. So that's what the error I forgot. Okay, so to say app, this is a Python decorator, and if you know what the decorator is, I have a video on decorators on my channel. So decorator is just takes in a callable as an input and returns a callable as an output. That's basically how you can think of a decorator as, but it's much more complicated than that. And I have a video on decorators on the channel, so you can check that out. So this you have seen me passing a decorator. That's going to make this a fast API route. So if I go back in here and I refresh this, now we should now see a fast API route, which says test. And if I go ahead and click this, and if I click this, you just get back a message that says hello world, which is this dictionary that we return here, right here. Okay, so that's basically how to set up a simple route in FastAPI. Good. So once you have that, now let's go ahead and create a Supabase project and have everything set up. So let's go create an account and then simply create a project. So create an account. Once you have the account, you can go ahead and say new projects right here, and then you can go ahead and fill in the project details. So I'm going to say CRUD API. Okay, API, just like that. And I'm simply going to go ahead and select the passing the password. So I'm going to simply say passing a password. Okay, so I'm going to type in a random password. Okay, that password is not strong enough. I hope. Okay, let me just simply do this way. Okay, so I hope that password is not strong enough still. So I don't know. Let me just see. Let me just type this out again. I'm just trying to generate a random password. Okay, that's still not strong. Okay, that's strong now. Okay, I hope I remember that password because I really can't remember that password I just generated right now. Okay, but basically that's it, and you're going to give it a bit of time to create for us the Supabase project. And once that project is created, we have the project details right here that you can use to log into our application. So now we need to go ahead and get the URL, and finally we also need to go ahead and get this other key. So let's copy the URL, which is this one right here, and I'm going to go back in here into my basically my env file, and I'm going to create a key right here. So I'm going to say Supabase, and this can be URL, and I'm going to say equals to and paste in that URL. Okay, so I'm going to delete all this after the video, so I don't think you can use my. Okay, so I'm going to delete all of it as well. So I'm going to go ahead and simply reveal this and simply copy this. This is my my API, the access key. So make sure that you copy this one and not the JWT one, or not the unknown one. Okay, so make sure you copy the right one. So once I have that copied, I'm going to go back in here and then simply say Supabase underscore key and then equals to and paste in the key that I just copied. Once I have that done, I'm gonna go ahead and close my env. Okay, good. So once we have that done, how do you read that into our Python application? So to read that into our Python application, what you're going to simply do is the following. So what I'm going to go ahead and do instead to read this, I'm going to go ahead and import decouple. So I'm going to say from, okay, let me just make sure I turn off my cap key. So from decouple, I'm going to go ahead and import config. So config will help us read the value. So I'm also going to import import OS. We're going to set this as an environment. Okay, you don't actually need the OS for now. Okay, you don't need the OS. So let's say from decouple, I'm going to go ahead and import config. So for some reason, it's giving me an error. I can't find this. I don't know why that's the case. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure I have decouple properly installed. So close this and then simply say pip install Python hyphen decouple. Okay, I think we installed this library. Yeah, it's already satisfied, so I don't know why it can't pick it up. Okay, so sometimes if it happens like this, I'm just gonna close my VS Code and have it open again, and that error should go away hopefully. So let me just go ahead and close this and have it open again, and I'll be back recording. Okay guys, so I just have that my VS Code resetted and opened up. So now let's go ahead and continue from where we left off. So we're going to go ahead and get read the URL from our basically our Supabase URL from our env file. So I'm going to say URL, basically URL is going to be equals to, and it's going to say config, and then finally I need to go ahead and open up this in here, and I'm going to go ahead and get the key name that we use, which we call it Supabase URL. So I'm going to copy that and paste it in here, so I can close this as well. And I'm also going to go ahead and also, let me just duplicate this. So copy this and paste again. And now we're going to call this one, this is going to be the key. So the key, and I'm going to go ahead and get the value for the key. So copy this and go ahead and paste it in here. Okay. So once you have that done, we have read both of the two, but basically the URL and also the key. Okay. So once you have that done, let's go ahead and simply write the code to connect to our So once we have that done, you're good to go. So now let's go ahead and write the code to connect to our Supabase database. So I'm going to go ahead and simply say from Supabase, I'm going to go ahead and import create client right here. I'm going to import that. So once I have create client, I'm going to go ahead down here and create a client. So I can go ahead and keep it below the first API instantiation. So I'm going to go ahead and say Supabase, and then Supabase is going to be equals to, and I'm going to go ahead and say Supabase, and it's going to be of type client. So you can also use type hints here if you want to. So I'm just going to go use type hints because that's recommended in the documentation. So I'm going to say of type is going to be of type client, and it's going to be equals to create client underscore client. You also need to pass in the URL and also the key. So when you pass in the URL and the key, that's all we need to do. So you have created a client and you have passed in the URL, which is what you read from here from the env file, and you also pass in the key, which is also what you read from the env file. So that's going to create for us a Supabase client that you can connect to. So once we have that, now we need to go ahead and add in a table. Okay, so we need to access a table from our Supabase project. So now let's go ahead and go ahead and click on tables right here, or you can also go back in here and you can click on edit table. So whatever works for you. So I'm going to go in here and say add a new table. So I'm going to add a new table. We'll call this table to do's, right? You're going to call it to do's and just say to do's CRUD API, just like that. And finally, once you have that, you can go ahead and add in the keys that you want. So I'm going to leave this to be an instance. You can also use a UIDD if you want to. I'm also going to leave created at. I'm also going to add a new column. This column is going to be this primary key, by the way. So the ID is going to be the primary key. And also we can go ahead and also add in the following. I also want to add in the title of the to-do. And this is going to be of type text. So I'm going to use text right here. Text right here. Okay, I'm also going to add another one which is going to be called description, the description of the to-do that you're creating, right? Now this is also going to be of type text. So scroll down here and find text and then use text right here. So you're going to use title and the description, created date, and then the ID. So that's all I want, and the ID is going to be the primary key. So that's all I want for the table. It's just going to be a very simple table. So click on save, and that's going to go ahead and create for us the table right here. And the table name is to do. So make sure I remember the name of the table, which is called to do. You're going to use this to connect to this specific table. Okay. So now once we have that done, we are good to go. So now the table is go ahead and it's going to go ahead and create a table, and you can see you have no rows whatsoever. So now let's go ahead and actually write the application to be able to add stuff into it. Okay, first let's go ahead and you can also write stuff. You can also go ahead and say insert a row here. And you can also go ahead and manually insert a row. So you can say ID is going to be 1, and the date you can go ahead and choose any date you want. So this is this, and this, just any random date. Title is going to be the first to do, and then say first to do. Description, just like that. And once you have that, you can click on save, and that's going to go ahead and save the date, save this. So you can see now we have the first row right here. So now let's write the FastAPI application to connect to this database and retrieve the first row information. So how do we do that? Now we go back in here, and you can go ahead and create another route if you want to. So you can actually delete this route if you want to. Let me just get rid of it, or let me just modify it a bit. I'm going to simply call this going to be to do's. So let's call it to do's / okay. And then what we're going to change the name to be called get underscore to do's. Means we're going to enter just all the to do's. And then what we're going to simply do is let me just go in here. So we're going to simply say to do's is going to be equals to Supabase, which is what the instantiation of the Supabase client right here. Dot, and then I'm going to simply say dot table. Which table do you want to connect to? We want to connect to our table called to do's, right? We call our tables to do's. So yeah, so let's connect to our to do's table, which is right here, to do's. Okay, so connect to our to do's table, to do's right here. You're going to say dot, and then finally pass in what you want to do. So we're going to say select. So you want to select everything. So what do you want to select? You want to select everything. Okay, just like basically normal SQL. You pass in asterisk, meaning all rows. And then finally you're going to execute this query. So execute, and that's going to execute the query and run the query and retrieve for us everything from the to-dos table. Finally, once you have that, you can simply go ahead and return that to do. So let's say to do's right here. So once I have that done, I'm just going to go ahead and test it out. So we have our Swagger UI running right here. I refresh this. Okay, so I stopped that API. So let's go ahead and run it again. So I'm going to simply say uvcon main app, then hyphen reload to just to reload every time you make changes. The reload part is not the reload flag is not important, but you can keep it just to automatically start the application every time you make changes. So we have this right here, and you can go ahead and click on try, and if you click execute, that should return to us the to do, which is basically we have fast to do description, which is exactly what we have inside of our Supabase database right there. So good, everything works fine. So now let's go ahead and write the route to be able to retrieve a specific to do. Basically passing the ID of the to do and returns that specific to do. Okay, so let me just copy this right here, and we're going to modify it. So copy this right here, and you're going to simply say along with this, you also need the ID of the to do that you want to receive, and the ID is going to be of type an integer right there. And then finally, I want to change this to be to do, not to do's. Okay, so the function name needs to be different. So this is to do's, and this one is to do. Okay, and this one is to do and not to do's. And let me also change it right here. Okay, so now for the retrieval, what you want to do is you want to say supabase.table.todos, because that's the name of the table, dot select, and then you're going to add in another thing. We're going to say dot equal. So we're going to matching two things. So we're going to say equal. You're going to say ID is the ID column is going to be equals to the ID that you receive from the user. Then finally you execute that query. So selecting every row that match in which this the ID column has this ID details that the user passed in, is going to return it to us. So that's basically it. So once we have that done, our API should automatically restart due to the reload flag. And if I refresh this, if you didn't use the reload flag, make sure that you restart your API manually again. Okay, so try this out, and I'm going to pass in ID of 1, and that should return to us the to do with an ID of 1, which is the to do, the first to do from our Supabase API, Supabase cloud database. And you can see right here we have the first to do being returned. Great. Now let's go ahead and write the function to be able to delete a to do. Okay, so let's write the function to be able to create a to do instead of delete one. So let's write the function to be able to create a to do instead of delete. So I'm going to go ahead and simply say at app dot this is going to be a post request. So post, and you're going to go ahead and send it to do's / okay, and then finally you're going to pass in the status code if in case everything went well. So status code is going to be equals to, I'm going to go up here and I'm going to import status from FastAPI. So I'm going to go down here and simply say status basically status dot, and then we say http, and this is going to be 201, which is for created. Okay, so once you have that, I'm going to go ahead and say def, and I'm going to create a Python function right here. I'm going to call it create underscore to do, just like this. And what we need to create a to do, we need to pass in, let me just pass this for now. We need to pass in the to do, the ID, and the to do details. Okay, so the ID, we can generate a random ID, right? So I'm going to simply say ID is going to be equals to, we can just import random. So I'm going to say import random. So we say from random. Okay, let me just import random. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and import random right here. Okay, so once I have a random imported, I'm going to go ahead and generate a random dot. This is going to be rand int. So generate a random integer, and you're going to pass in the range of where you want the value to be generated. So just pass in this ridiculously large number. And once we have that, we're going to go ahead and use that as the ID of the thing, of the to do. So now the user need to pass in the description of the to do, and the description, we need the description, the date to be automatically set. So we need the description of the to do. Also, we need the title of the to do. So now let's create a schema that the user can use to pass this information in. So basically, let's go ahead and import the schema from right here. So let's say from Pydantic. I'm going to import base model. Okay, so good. So once you have that, you're going to go ahead and use that base model to create a schema that you're going to pass to our response. Okay, that is I need to pass in. Okay, I'm going to call it to do schema, and this schema is going to inherit from the base model that we just imported from Pydantic. And what you need to do here is you need to pass in the title, and the title needs to be a Python string. Also, you need to pass in the description. It also needs to be a string. So that's all we need to do. So the user need to pass in a to do, and the to do needs to be of type to do description. So sorry, to do schema. Okay, so to do schema, yeah, I call it schema. So right there, so to do schema. So the to do is going to be of type to do schema, and what you're going to do, we have the ID already. So now we're going to go ahead and generate that to do. So we're going to go down here and simply say to do is going to be equals to Supabase Supabase dot table, and the table that you want to insert it into is going to be called to do's. The table from here you can see is called to do's, so that's the table that you're looking after, that you're looking for. So to do's, and then say dot insert, and in here you need to pass in a Python dictionary, and then when you pass in we need to say the ID, and the ID is going to be equals to the ID that was we just created above. So this needs to be a string, Python string, right here, ID, and the ID needs to be the ID that you just generated above there. You need to pass in the title, so title, and the title needs to be the to do, which the user passed in. You're going to get the title part of it out, so that's title, just like that. Also, you need to go ahead and pass in the following. So you also need to pass in the description. So description, and description is going to be to do dot description. Okay, so I hope I got that spelling right, or description right there. So description right there. Okay, so that's all we need to do. So we're passing the ID, the description, and then the title, the date to be automatically figured out in the backend, or on our cloud API, cloud storage. Okay, so once we have that, we're going to simply return, and we're going to return the to-do that we just created. So that's all we need to do. So that's all is required. So I'm going to go ahead and now, once you have this code, you haven't really executed it. So I'm going to say execute. Okay, and then basically now execute this query. That's going to go ahead and insert data into our cloud storage. So that's basically the code right here. So yeah, that's all we need to do. So let's go ahead and actually test this out and make sure it's working. So make sure your application is running and you have enabled the reload flag. If not, then make sure you stop it and rerun it again. Okay, so once you have this right here, I'm going to go ahead and click on try it out, and I'm going to pass in, this is going to be let's say second to do, and let's say second to do description right there, and I just simply execute this, and that's going to go ahead and insert that into our database, and it's going to return to us it back right here. If you go back in here and let's try to, now you can see we have it right here. The second to do has also been inserted into the cloud storage right here. So good, that's how you can insert. So now let's go ahead and move on to how do you delete something from the database. So to delete something from the database, actually very simple. What you need to do is get the ID of what you want to delete, and then use the ID to delete that specific information. So now let's go ahead and create it right here. So I'm going to simply say create the decorator app dot this is going to be delete, a delete route, and it's going to be / to do's / and we pass in the ID of that specific to do. And once we have that, we're going to simply say def, and we're going to simply say def and say delete underscore to do, and we're going to pass in the ID, and the ID is going to be a Python string. Okay, so once we have that, we're going to say to do is going to be equals to Supabase dot table. We're going to get the to do's table, and we're going to simply say dot delete, and then delete. You're going to go ahead and pass in this parental get, and pass in the equal operator, and then pass in, you're going to look for an ID that is matches the ID that the user passed in. And once you have that, you're going to go ahead and execute this query to delete that. And then once you have that, you're going to return going to return a status code of everything. It's okay. So we're going to return a status code of let's say status, and I'm going to say dot. Okay, let me just return a dictionary or message saying here message saying let me just say deleted. So deleted. Okay, so let me just close this up. I think I hit the wrong key. So deleted, just like that. And now you're going to return to us. You can specify the status code of the response. Status code is going to be equals to basically status dot http. And you're going to return a 204 of no content found because you have deleted the content, right? So that's basically it. So once we have this done, let's go ahead and test this out. So make sure that your API is running, and if it's not, make sure you have reload or stop it and run it again. Okay, so once you have that, now let's try to delete this specific one that the second to do. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy cell content, and I'm going to go here and simply say try this out, and then simply paste the cell content in here, and then execute this. Now that should go ahead and delete everything, and we get back a string. Okay, so that has been deleted. So let me see. Okay, so I don't know why it's not returned to us this string content information, but okay, this says deleted. So now let's go back in there and see if it's really deleted. So now you can see it has been successfully deleted. So that's basically how you can create a simple CRUD API. So now the only part which is left is the update part of the CRUD, right? We have done create, the C, the retrieve, the R, the update, the U, which you haven't done. We have also done the delete part, which is the D, so CRUD, right? So the only part you have left left to do is the update functionality. And I want you guys to really experiment it and find out how to do this update functionality. And there's a lot of ton of documentation out there. You can also read the official documentation of how you can delete data or how you can update data. In all is all here. Actually, this is just the code that you need to do. So you can just copy this code, change this to be the to-do stable, pass in the details that you want, and that's basically it. Specify the ID, and that's all you need to do to do the update of the database. So I'm going to leave that to you. Basically, this is the code that you have here. So you can just pause the video and get this code. That's all you need to do. So yeah, that's all for this video, and I hope you guys have found this helpful. Now you have learned how to integrate Supabase into your FastAPI application. I don't know why I continuously say Firebase, because Firebase and Supabase are actually very similar. So this basically, that's how you can be able to create a simple CRUD API using Supabase and FastAPI. Okay, so if you guys have any questions, recommendation, or you want me to take this into a much advanced level, you can create a whole authentication system, login system, file storage, all using Supabase. Is actually very simple to do. So if you guys are actually interested in that, let me know in the comment section below. I'll do my best to get back to you and create something very simple like that. So it really speeds up development instead of having to do everything by yourself, having to encode passwords, do hashing and all that. Supabase just makes everything simple for you. So if you are building an application like application that involves authentication, CRUD functionality, I would probably go with Supabase nowadays instead of having to do everything from scratch by myself, which I usually I even have a video on that, on how to do all that manually by yourself using Postgres database, everything from the hashing of the password, user authentication, JWT tokens and everything. So you can check that video out if you want. But if you guys also want me to make a video on how to build a whole system using a whole API using Supabase, authentication, file storage, other CRUD functionalities, let me know in the comment section below. I'll do my best to get back to you. Thank you guys for watching so much, and see you in the next one. Keep safe.